Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network. I am Mike Kadlick, joined by 98.5 The Sports Hub's Alex Barth. We're here to preview the Patriots game coming up on Christmas. Jeez, it's all blended together this holiday season,
It
Alex. New
really
Year's
is.
Day. New Year's. I know they played so many holiday games. They all seem like they're similar. New Year's Day. Patriots welcome the Miami Dolphins in. Must-win game. Patriots somehow still control their own destiny, so we're here to preview that one. Do want to start with some Patriots news first. Before we get into, the game plan side of this show. There's a lot of rumors circulating about the Patriots potentially bringing Bill O'Brien in next season as their offensive coordinator. He spoke at Sugar Bowl Media Day yesterday, and someone asked him about it, and he basically said that he has not spoken to anyone with the Patriots since April, and that he is focused on coaching this team up in the Sugar Bowl. Obviously, that's the coach speak, where he's not going to speak on anything and just say that, like he said, he is focused on this game. But I thought it was interesting that he hasn't talked to anyone since April here. So I don't know if it's a rumor coming from upstairs at One Patriot Place, if it was just speculation, maybe some informed speculation, Bill O'Brien just lying and saying he actually could have been speaking to people. But what do you make of it? Do you think there's anything to it?
I buy it. I buy that he hasn't talked to anybody since April. I do believe that. I think the way the Patriots operate when they're in the season, they're in the season. Bill Belichick's not the kind of guy who in week 15 is going to say, all right, I need a new offensive coordinator for next year. Let me get started on that. He's going to play the season out. So, and I think O'Brien's the same kind of guy to Alabama. I don't think he's the kind of guy that would call up Bill Belichick and say, hey, my contract's up at the end of the year. If you're looking, like, I'm around. So I do buy all of that. I do still think that when the time does come, there will be communication between the two. That wouldn't
100%.
surprise me. The one thing I'll say is the narrative is very much becoming Bill O'Brien or another year of Matt Patricia. And I don't
We've been
think
talking about this for the last 3 days down at Patriots.
I don't think it needs to be that. I don't think it should be that. I think that they could maybe do better than Bill O'Brien. I mean, we don't know. We don't know who's going to be available, but none of Bill O'Brien's offenses in Houston ever ranked 10th or higher. None of them ranked in the top 10 in the league. Alabama has not been typical Alabama this year, was not typical Alabama this year. There's a reason they're not in the playoff. And I would, a lot of the times watching them felt like watching the Patriots in terms of some of the disorganization. Now, they were great the year before when O'Brien was still there. So I'm not saying that's a Bill O'Brien issue, but I'm just saying, I think there's this idea that it's just plug and place. Matt Patricia, Bill O'Brien for Matt Patricia, and everything's just going to be fixed, right? It's not that simple. I don't know that O'Brien's the perfect candidate, and I don't know that he's going to be the only option besides sticking with Matt Patricia. So bringing him in would be a good move. This isn't to say they shouldn't do it, but I'm just interested to see what other names emerge. Like, I think we all know O'Brien's going to be an option. I'm interested to see what other names emerge as we get a little deeper into the process.
Well, one of the names that I keep, going back to is now, and I kind of can't get my mind off it, is Cliff Kingsbury, because the report came out too on ESPN. ESPN Plus had an article, I forget who wrote it, but basically that the relationship between Kingsbury and the Cardinals is shattered, and that there's a chance that he could resign out of Arizona. And that's a guy who, I mean, I've been in love with the fact that they bring Bill O'Brien in last year and they didn't do it, and maybe they bring him in this year and they didn't, or there's ongoing questions that they may or may not do it. But I think at this point, I might rather a guy like Cliff Kingsbury come in and just overhaul this offense with some new age stuff. And Bill O'Brien, there seems to be a floor with his offense. Like, he'll come in here and they called him the teapot when he was here before. And, he's going to get on guys and he's going to blow up if he has to, and he'll get things in line. But, Kingsbury could bring that there's a higher ceiling with him, I feel like, as the play caller here too.
I think the other thing is, and this is going to surprise some people just given how much I've defended Mac, a big part of the draw of hiring O'Brien is his relationship with Mac Jones and him being able to bring some of those Alabama concepts. And if Mac Jones turns out not to be the guy, which is very possible, that could happen. Well, Bill O'Brien doesn't really, his value, the draw of him in that position decreases significantly. I think Cliff Kingsbury would also be very good for Mac. It might take a little longer for them to figure it out, but nothing major. And then if Mac turns out if he can't fix Mac, if Mac turns out not to be the guy, Kingsbury's still a guy who's going to bring a lot to the table. So, I I don't think it should come down to just Bill O'Brien. I would take him. I think he'd be a good hire, but can they make a
He'd be a
great hire?
great upgrade. He'd be a great
Yeah.
upgrade. So yeah, that's
But can they
that on the
upgrade even more?
Right. That's that on the Bill O'Brien front. Said that he hasn't spoken to the team since April, but there's definitely some rumblings remaining in the air with that. The other thing was just a little media thing that happened the other day down at Gillette Stadium. Myself, Alex, a bunch of the other guys on the beat voted, and we voted Jacoby Myers, the Rob Hobson Good Guy of 2022, which is basically an award that the media gives to one player every year who fulfills their media duties to the fullest, is always there. And I thought Andrew Callahan, who kind of ran the whole thing from the Herald, put it best, how Jacoby was always one of the guys that will always give you an extra 5 minutes this year. He's always there to answer questions. He doesn't cut short. Win or loss, he was always there to, take the blame, and he pumped up Mac Jones like crazy during, his time where he was having a rough go of it. So I thought he was deserving of the Good Guy Award this year. My first time voting for it. But yeah, Jacoby, I think he's been awesome this year. And it would be a shame to see him go if he ends up leaving in free agency because he's just a good guy. I mean, it's true. He's just a good dude.
Yeah, it's funny. What's crazy is, and Andrew shared this on Twitter. We voted for that award before the game in Vegas.
Yeah.
Right. I think, because we voted before the team went out west for sure. Yep. And that, that game proved to be exactly why he won it, because he made that play. And look, it was a dumb play. It was a stupid play. Shouldn't have made it. It's going to be a part of, his career forever. But he stood up there at his locker and answered every single question, like earnestly. So that's kind of the point of the award. And yeah, like you said, I mean, it sucks the way it's probably going to end here for him in New England. Like maybe he comes back, but
we'll see.
The way it looks like it's going to end for him in New England is very unfortunate. But he's been a consummate pro since day one. So I'm glad that got recognized a little bit, because I can't imagine it's been an easy couple of weeks for him. And I'm not saying that winning a media award is going to turn it around, right? But just to let him know, like, hey, man, like, you're doing all the right things, right? Yeah. You're doing all the right things, yeah.
Right. So yeah, that happened. But let's get into it. Pats versus Dolphins. We'll segue from Jacoby into the offense versus the defense. I mean, on both sides of the ball, really, but this is just an injury-filled game. I think that you look at guys on the Miami defense that are on the injury report today, guys like Bradley Chubb, Xavier Howard, Jalen Phillips. I mean, they're banged up just as much as the Patriots are banged up on defense, and we'll get to that in a minute. But the Patriots offense last week, they showed kind of a little bit of life at the end of the game. It's something we haven't seen in a while versus the Bengals. Seemed like they kind of got Kendrick Bourne out of the doghouse. He has a career day, 6 catches, 100 yards. My question to you, and I think what we should talk about and should be the center of attention, is did Matt Patricia bury the hatchet? And was that just like a last second, like, I don't even know what the saying is, where they just say, F it, we gotta put him in and play him.
Yeah.
Did they get him more involved again this week because they saw what it was, or do they bury him once again?
Man, isn't that kind of what this whole season's been? Questions like that, right? Like
that's not what we should be talking about right now, but it is.
It's not. I'd love to sit here and say, yeah, he broke out last week and he proved that he belongs on this team, and they're going to get him going, and he's going to be so good that they're going to win out, and right? It'd be great. But we've seen him flash before this year. Hell, he caught that 40-yarder in Miami in week 1. Nearly saved their bacon in that game.
We've been talking about this doghouse since September. It's infuriating.
Weeks. So I'd like to sit here and say, yeah, he's going to play next week, and they're going to attack the intermediate part of the field, him and Mac, and it's going to look like he did in 2021. They're going to move the ball. I'd love to sit here and say that. But, man, after 15, 16 weeks, aren't we just banging our head against the wall at that point? Mm-hmm. Like, they clearly have a problem with this guy. I'm not saying it's justified. It's not.
Right.
I can't, unless there's something really deep down that we don't know about, in which case, at that point, cut him.
Right.
Right.
At that point, you don't put him in the game at the end of last week.
Because they had their chances to trade him.
Right.
Going back to the offseason, going back to camp, going back to the deadline. So, I want to say that they're going to put him in the game because he is a playmaker. He is explosive. He is everything that this offense has not been all season. But Mike, come on. We both know what's going to happen. We're going to be sitting here Monday or Tuesday night talking about how after that big performance, he played 5 snaps. Like that's
That
what's going
can't
to happen.
happen. That can't happen. And I don't know if it will because, again, going back to the injuries, the Patriots, Devontae Parker's out with concussion. Tyquan Thornton's limited with a knee. I don't.
Thornton
And
was
as much
that
as
same thing as last week. Same thing
but
as
I
last
want
week.
them. So here's the thing: I want them to get Thornton incorporated, but I don't
Yeah.
want it to be at the whatever.
Expense.
Yeah. Thank you. I don't want it to be at the expense of playing Kendrick Bourne. Like that's not how this should work. They're still in it right now.
No, but Mike, don't you understand? Kendrick Bourne did something in the summer that was so inexcusable. His entire season has to be wiped out.
It's crazy, Alex, and it's something that it's one of the many, 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 many reasons why Matt Patricia has to go is the fact that this is something that's being held over his head. In a time where the last 2 weeks, I mean, again, we talk about it, but the last 2 weeks, they needed wins to keep their playoff hopes alive. They didn't get them, but they're still in this position where they have 2 games to go. They do control their own destiny. I've used the term malpractice so many times this year. That's true coaching malpractice if they continue to not play Kendrick Bourne on Sunday.
I go back to the post-game press conference after the game against the Bengals when Bill was asked, why isn't Kendrick Bourne playing more this year? And he said, no particular reason. Bill Belichick said that.
Do you trust him?
I think there is a reason. I do think there is a reason. Like, they're not just going to do something because YOLO, F it, let's not play the guy, right?
YOLO, baby.
But, yeah, that's how old I am. But at the same time, the reason clearly isn't he can't even fabricate a good reason. Right. He knows there's no good reason for it. I'm sure there's a reason that he won't tell us, but he could have easily said, we're doing what's best for the team. We do what's best for the team. So he says that all the time. I'm not saying that would have excused it, but
right.
All right. Because my thing is when we get fed lines like that, my reaction is, all right, if you're going to feed me a line, I'm going to take it at face value and see how it looks. Why isn't Kendrick Bourne playing more this year? We're doing what's best for the team. Okay, so there's some reason behind closed doors that not putting Kendrick Bourne on the field helps the team. You've won 6 Super Bowls. I played 2 years of Pop Warner and could barely get on the field. Fine. Right. Like, I get it, okay? I don't get it, but sure, there's something. No particular reason. What is that? Like that? So, okay,
that's crazy.
So you're just not playing him to not play him, even though every time he steps on the field, he makes a play?
Right. And there's always a reason. He always has a reason.
Right, and there's always a reason. And when he doesn't, it's we're going to do what's best for the team.
Right.
Or we did what we thought gave us the best chance to win. And this is to take it a level deeper. He says that all the time. We're doing what's best for the team. We're doing what gave us the best chance to win. So does that mean benching Bourne is not what's best for the team? Because he didn't answer that way.
Right.
Is it not what's going to help them win? Because he didn't answer that way. Like that one's still under my skin. That answer. Yeah. And that's why, to get back to the original point where we started, I don't think Kendrick Bourne's going to play a ton this week because they just sort of seem to be set in this idea that he's not worth putting out there for one reason or the other.
Well, that's just a shame. It's ridiculous, and it's why the Patriots are where they're at this year. Patriots offense is banged up. Yannick adjusted in practice today with an illness. Damian Harris did not practice either. Jonnu Smith didn't practice. Ramondre Stevenson's limited. Hunter Henry's limited. Looking at their lack of, I guess, firepower going into this week compared with looking at the 3 levels of the Dolphins defense. Up front, they have Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Christian Wilkins. That's a dominant front. Yeah. Landon Roberts, Jerome Baker on the second level. I mean, Roberts leads them in tackles. I don't consider Landon Roberts, anything more than a special teamer that kind of fell into a starting role in Miami and is making the most out of it.
He's a good run stopper. He's a good early down linebacker. I think that's shortchanging him a little bit.
Okay, fair. But then they also have guys on the back end in Javon Holland and Xavier Howard. So this is a pretty good Dolphins defense for a team that's lost 4 straight. I don't think it's really the defense's fault. I was watching some film and I was looking at actually a breakdown that Taylor Kyles did. They do let up a lot of long runs. They'll let guys gash them every once in a while for like a 40-yard run. So if Stevenson's healthy, again, it's tough because Stevenson's going to be healthy and then Harris isn't going to play, but they're not going to play the young guys and they're just going to kill Ramondre. We asked him about it today when we were down at Gillette, and he all season long when asked about his health and being the bell cow that he's become this year, Ramondre said, "I'm feeling good. I'm good. I'm ready to roll. I'm taking good care of my body." Today he finally said it. Look, I'm banged up. I'm hurt.
Well, he said it after the game Saturday night.
Oh, that's right too. Yep.
But yeah, no, so he's starting to acknowledge it.
Yeah,
and
he's starting to acknowledge the wear and tear on his body in this offense.
He's 9th in the league in touches, man. Like, he's up there. He has had a tremendous workload, and this is what I talked about back in October. You can go back in October. You can go pull the tape. In the modern NFL, you cannot have a 300 touch player. You just can't. The days of, even LaDainian Tomlinson and Adrian Peterson, those probably the last two true bell cow backs who could play a full season. Even the guys now, Derrick Henry tends to fade at the end of the year. Look, he's out tonight. I believe he's out tonight. I know he was doubtful.
Yeah, I just saw it. He's inactive.
Did they officially confirm it? All right. So Derrick Henry's out tonight. Key game for his team. Key game. He's out. Ezekiel Elliott fades every year. And look, he's a great player, tremendously talented player.
Right.
But he's not quite the same in December as he is in September and October. There really aren't that many examples because teams have kind of realized this and gone away from that guy. Even Christian McCaffrey, who's not your traditional between the tackles back, a guy that generally fades later in the year, gets hurt. Somebody's got to lead the league in touches, obviously, right? So the 9th in the league isn't to say, that rank should be lower, but he's probably going to
touches. Yeah,
I think I want to say he's at 256 right now. So it's not unrealistic to think he'll end up being a 300 touch player.
No.
Which the Patriots haven't had in a long time. I don't know if that's ever happened under Belichick. It actually might not have. So, I mean, this is the bed they made. They got to lay in it. When Damian Harris was healthy, they had chances to play him. They didn't. They've had these two rookies all year. They didn't play him. Even J.J. Taylor, was on the practice squad, was in the building, didn't play.
Right.
And now you've got must-win games, so maybe you don't want to put rookies in there against these veteran defenses, which I get. And Harris is banged up, missed practice today, so he's not an option. So now you have no other choice. And he's starting to look gassed. He's starting to look the part.
You can't rely on it like you did earlier in the season.
Right. So, I go back. I think the game I gave you as an example earlier in the year was like the Lions game, right? Did they need Ramondre to touch the ball in that game as many times as he did when they had Damian Harris, Pierre Strong against that terrible run defense? No, probably not.
You wanted to save it for a divisional game late in the season.
Is this not the exact? I said, what happens when you get late in the year against Miami and Buffalo and you need him to have a big game? I think that's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yep. It's tough. So can they get after this defense as banged up as they are? I mean, I look at their secondary, right, and they're very top heavy. Like Xavier Howard's really good, Javon Holland's really good, but then
Xavier Howard's on the injury report as well. He got added today with a knee injury, so
he was limited with a knee. I still feel like he'll end up playing, but he's banged up. But I mean, again, they're very top heavy because the other guys in that room are Keon Crossan. They got a lot of former Patriots. Keon Crossan's there. He's played okay, but Noah, I call him Igbo, the kid from Auburn, a couple years ago, late first round pick. He's kind of trash. I don't see him being a problem necessarily, but where do they go against this defense?
I think you got to attack the intermediate part of the field.
Yeah.
That's where they've been at their best. And who's your best intermediate receiver? It's Kendrick Bourne.
Here we go.
So that's it. And Jacoby Myers is in there as well. So I think he's a guy that you'll feed a lot in this game. But they got to attack the intermediate field, which is the one thing they haven't done this year, right? The first 3-4 weeks of the season, it was all deep. Since then, it's been all right at the line of scrimmage. They have been very hesitant in the intermediate part of the field. I talked about this today with Evan Lazar on the Catch 22 podcast, which, by the way, now is on YouTube, on the Patriots YouTube channel. You can check that out. But you talk about Elandon Roberts, right? A guy who, again, I think is a good run defender. If you attack him in coverage, you're going to win those matchups. You attack him with the tight end, and who knows who they'll have at tight end.
I know.
You attack him with the tight end. You try to get Ramondre isolated on him. You're going to win those matchups. But you've got to be willing to go to that part of the field, which they really haven't done a lot this year.
Moving on to, I guess, the Dolphins pass rush, Chubb. Jalen Phillips has been unbelievable this season. That kid's a stud pass rusher for the Dolphins. Mixed with the Patriots being banged up, do they have time? Kid Just is sick. I mean, they're banged
Yeah.
up and they're not that great. Do they have enough time to protect Mac to hit that intermediate part of the field? I mean, I know it can still be quick hitters, right? But how do you think they're going to have success against this front?
Look, the line's been better the last couple of
Yeah,
weeks. So between that, Bradley Chubb's banged up. Again, if you get Bourne out there, he runs his routes quicker.
right.
Maybe. I think it's possible. I feel a lot better about the line now than I did 3 weeks ago. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you they're going to be perfect because the way this season is gone, I wouldn't be surprised if they just fall apart,
Right.
in this game. But I feel a little better about the offensive line than I have in a few weeks.
I see in the chat more screen passes. One thing they're not going to be able to do is run their Marcus Jones package this week because he is out with a concussion. Or at least he hasn't practiced for 2 days with a concussion. I don't see him playing this week at all. So they did use that package a few times with Marcus Jones, get him the ball in space. The orbit motions, they built off it with runs on the backside, etc. But maybe, just maybe, and call me crazy, Alex, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago when they did it, run that package with Tyquan Thornton. He's the fastest guy in the field.
Yeah.
Put that guy in motion. Put him in the RPO package. I don't know if they'll do it, but that sounds like a damn good idea, don't you think?
Well, it's been a good idea since July.
It's been a good idea since they drafted him in April.
Right. Again, if you're looking, this has been what's so mind-blowing about it. And obviously it's great that Marcus Jones has found this role.
Totally.
And it's, good for him and it's a ton of fun to watch and it's obviously effective. But man, if you're trying to inject speed into the offense, how about the receiver that ran the fastest 40 at the combine this year? One of the fastest in the history of the event. And
Yep.
he doesn't quite have the same change of direction that Marcus Jones has, but I don't know. I just think you get a guy that fast running in a straight line, something good's going to happen. Right. So
yeah,
here we go. Play Kendrick Bourne, get Tyquan Thornton the ball in space. Like these,
why don't
we're
we
broken records at this point. We're broken records at this point
Yeah.
in terms of, we're saying the same things for a week 17 game we were saying about a week 2 game that we wanted to see them do. So, what else is, go back to the old offense. Don't run outside zone as much. It's kind of where we're at this point.
The thing is, we've said it, right? And it's one thing to, talk about something at the beginning of the season, speculate on it, and then they don't do it, but the other thing they do works, and then, okay,
Right.
It's fine. We said it, but it worked. But it hasn't worked. It's been them running themselves into a wall every single week. So we continue to bring it up because they haven't built on anything, and they haven't changed. And again, I guess last week I do give them, I know you don't like to, give them credit for things when it's basically their last straw, but they finally gave Bourne a chance and they succeeded. So if they build on that this week and use it to get themselves to the playoffs, I mean, that's something, but it's crazy. Why has it taken this long?
And that I said after the Cardinals game, remember I said, I'll only give them credit if they go back to it when they have options, and they didn't go back to it. They didn't. So I say the same thing about Kendrick Bourne. Well, I don't even give him credit now because it's too little too late.
I know.
Right. If Kendrick Bourne had played all year, I'm not saying they're division champs, but is it enough to flip one game? Because you flip just one game at this point, and they're in the driver's seat for a playoff spot right now. You probably don't need to win at Buffalo. You really don't need to win at Buffalo to get in.
It's crazy.
But let me see them go back to it, because not only has most of what they've run not work, the few times they've run things that have worked, they abandon it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if they put Kendrick Bourne out there, great. It's too little too late, but great. They finally realized something that works is worth repeating. Again, every time they've been in that situation this year, they've gone away with it.
It's frustrating. Before we continue on in the offense, I do want to talk about our friends at LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. We use LinkedIn Jobs here at CLNS Media, and we can't recommend it enough. It's super easy to post your job, then add your listing and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. We are about 2 days to the end of December, Alex. So now is the perfect time to add the right team member to end your year strong and start 2023 with a bang. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering high-quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/beat. That's linkedin.com/beat to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. The last thing I just want to say on the offense, and I'm sure we talked about this on Tuesday as well, but I've seen it in the chat, I've seen it on Twitter, and it's the Zappy thing and the quarterback. The end of that, I mean, Mac Jones played fine against the Bengals. There's no reason to turn to Zappy. There's no reason to give him this offense, this lackluster offense that has no answers. It's not going to give you anything going into 2023. All it's going to do is deflate the franchise quarterback who you want to have around here for some time. And we talked about it today with Evan. I mean, Mac played well against the Bengals. Especially in that second half, he made some hole shots to Bourne. He didn't make any mistakes, I don't think. I think he made one mistake on the interception that got called back. I can't remember if that was the first or the second half, but I mean, he played well for the situation he was put in, and whether you like it or not, he was the quarterback that led them to 18 straight points in the game. I know 6 of it was a pick six, but he was in charge when they came back. So I can't stand the Zappy talk, and I don't think I'll ever get over it.
Yeah, and it's nothing against Bailey Zappi. Mac Jones offers more
Zappy
ceiling,
was awesome.
And you saw it there at the end of that game. You know, he did have the panicky moment with the fumble. Needs to cut that out. Like that wasn't the whole and the motions taking over in the cut block like that. 100%. That's the most talked about thing, and it probably should be. But as a passer, he looked good. I mean, the throw to Bourne up the seam. I hear people say, you know, there's 2 big knocks I hear on Mac Jones. One, people say he only throws into double and triple coverage, which isn't true, but whatever. And 2, that he doesn't throw guys open, which isn't true, but whatever. But, you know, the throw to Bourne up the seam where he back shoulders it.
Yep.
That's a high level throw and a high level catch too. Like both of them. They made that, and it's not a fluke. They made that play last year against the Browns for a touchdown. You can't complain that he doesn't throw guys open and that he only throws into coverage or that he throws too much into coverage, because if a guy's not covered, you can't throw him open. He's open. You can throw him closed, but you can't. So
sure, throw him into coverage.
Which one is it? Which one? This is my thing with Mac now. This is because these people are lunatics. They don't, and it really sucks because
you're lunatics, all of you.
The way that this season has gone, and it's kind of unprecedented. Like sometimes you watch a team on TV and you just know, hey, they're not fast enough. Hey, they're not this. Hey, they're not that, right?
Right.
With the Patriots, it goes a little deeper. If you just watch it at first glance, I understand why so many people think it's the quarterback. And it sucks because the only way to properly explain it is you have to be a little pretentious. And I hate doing this, but unless you watch the game at the level that people like us watch the game, you can't see what's wrong with the offense because, first of all, a lot of the stuff that's wrong is taking place off of the TV copy, like further down the field, right? Or just in such, you need to be able to sync the whole thing up and see the big picture, right? You need to watch it multiple times. You need to watch different angles. So here's what I'm going to say. If you have a critique on Mac Jones, you need to be able to back it up. He throws it into double coverage too much. When? Give me the percentage. Right. Give me the percentage on tight window throws, and then give me the percentage that he completes those. Because he's completing tight window throws at a high level this year compared to the rest of the league. Well, he doesn't throw guys open. Okay, but when he does throw guys open, you complain about him throwing into coverage. Cut Mac, bench Mac. Okay, fine. If you're going to say that, you need to give me who they're going to. Because I don't know that Mac Jones is an NFL quarterback. I don't know that he's not. He took his team to the playoffs as a rookie, which is a much harder feat than people realize. And then this year was basically a throwaway because he was in an unprecedentedly bad coaching situation.
Yep.
So you don't move on from a guy who could be the guy. You just don't do that. There's a great tweet last night. I don't remember who, somebody at The Athletic, who said, it sucks we live in this world where every quarterback is either elite or terrible.
Yep.
And it's so true because you can get there with a good quarterback. You can get there. So if you're going to tell me, well, Mac's not the guy, move on. For who? Bailey Zappi? How did he look against the Bears? The only good defense he faced. Even against the Lions, he only led one touchdown drive, right? He looked good against the Browns. It's a 31st ranked defense in the league. All right, well, how about we move on for Derek Carr? Why?
Oh, God.
What are your big complaints about Mac? He's too panicky in the pocket. He doesn't go through his reads. He throws into coverage. That's Derek Carr.
Yep.
But he costs more and is older. Right. So, all right, you want to move on for Mac for Derek Carr? No, you don't. I'm telling you right now, you don't. We'll be back here next year having the exact same conversation. Right? Oh, for Jimmy Garoppolo. He can't stay on the field.
Jimmy, let's do Jimmy. Come on. No, do Jimmy.
He can't stay on the field, and he's getting showed up by Brock Purdy. Yep. Let's move on.
Showed up is strong, but continue.
Let's move on from Mac for Brock Purdy. Well, Niners aren't letting that guy go because he can actually play, and he costs $28 million less than the other option. The point being, you got to come to me with an actual. If we're going to have this conversation, I'm done having this conversation with not football people. You have to have football reasons to back up your argument because it's getting out of control.
He's good. He's fine. Yeah, the jury's not out on him yet, is the point.
Right. That's it. Look, if they fix everything, if they get a real OC and they go get a number one wide receiver and the offensive line's fixed and he still sucks next year, well, then we're 100%. Moving on. Then we can start talking about Caleb Williams and Quinn Ewers and whoever, right? Fine. But I think he's shown you too much to cut bait after 2 years. And by the way, there really aren't a ton of good quarterback options available this offseason. This is a really bad year for quarterbacks in the draft. And the top quarterbacks available in free agency or through trade are basically going to be, again, Derek Carr, we went over why that one doesn't work. Jimmy Garoppolo, we went over why he doesn't work. I don't know. Do you want to go to Carson Wentz? How's that working in Washington? All right, Brady, I've given my piece on Brady. I would take, yes, if you can get Brady, you go to Brady. But if it's not him, are you going to Matt Ryan? We going to Carson Wentz?
No. You know, then you just end up like the Indiana.
Are we going to Ryan Tannehill? Right. Like none of these are better options. If they could draft Caleb Williams, it would be another conversation. They can't.
Sure.
Not right now. No better options.
Put
Mac in a situation that works, like he was in 2021 when he made the playoffs, and give him one more shot at it.
I'm with you. Give him a chance.
That is the football. That is what football logic dictates doing.
It's not fair. It's not fair to move off of him after this season at all.
I don't even want to say that because the NFL is not fair.
Okay.
Right? But it's short-sighted from an organizational standpoint. I really don't care I don't want to say I don't care what's fair to
but you get the point.
The team shouldn't. But it's short. No, because it's not like I don't want to frame it as they're doing Mac a disservice for moving on from him too early. They already did Mac a disservice.
Yeah, I guess.
They're doing themselves a disservice if they move on from Mac.
Sure. It's too early. Let's talk about the.
And boy, I thought I got called a Mac Jones apologist before. Wait until they hear that.
I know. I can't wait.
But am I wrong?
About it. No, you're not wrong. I'm with you. I've said it all along. This thing isn't Mac's fault. The garbage can around him this season is so laughable. It's like any other coaching staff, it would have cleaned house in the NFL this season. Well, it would have been like
Denver.
Hackett. Exactly.
Yeah, it's a perfect example because look, Russ certainly took a step back skill wise. Like he has regressed. The difference, he's 30. Some of that, like over 30, some of that's reasonable. But their offense.
But the situation around him didn't help either. That's part of the reason.
The way that thing's designed. Look, I think it was better designed than the Patriots, but not by much. So it does have, and he got less than a year.
Exactly. So if it was anywhere else in the NFL, the place would have crumbled around him, and they probably would have been out the door by Thanksgiving. Let's talk about Dolphins offense versus the Patriots defense. This is where the injuries really come into play, and it started earlier this week with Dolphins starter Tua Tagovailoa. He will be out this week with a concussion, so the offense will turn to Teddy Bridgewater. They also have two of the most dynamic wide receivers in the NFL in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Two of the fastest guys, two of the best route runners. They get open. They make it super easy for quarterbacks in this type of Shanahan, McDaniel, McVay system to get the ball to their guys in space. There's no easier plug-and-play two receivers in the league to go into than Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, in my opinion. So I don't think the Patriots should be excited that they have to play a backup this week in Teddy Bridgewater, and they especially shouldn't be excited with the injuries on their defense because not only, but Jack Jones, Marcus Jones, Jalen Mills all haven't practiced this week. John Jones is banged up. John Jones is the guy they usually defend Tyreek Hill with, and he's done relatively well. But if you can even think you can rely on John Jones just taking Tyreek Hill out of the game, you still have Jalen Waddle playing against who? Tay Hayes. I mean,
probably Miles Bryant.
Exactly. So, like, they have a lot of work to do. Adrian Phillips didn't practice today either, so
Yeah, let's not
it's going to be
sleep on what Mike Gesicki can do.
exactly. And that was going to be my other point. I hate tight ends. We talk about it on this show. Mike Gesicki's a pretty damn good tight end. I'm a fan of his, and he can make plays, especially with how depleted this Pats secondary is. I think it's going to be tough sledding.
Yeah, and it's funny because the big thing with all these guys out is size, right? We talked about this a lot last week. You got 5'10", 5'9", 5'8", 5'8" at corner. That's not really a concern against the Dolphins. Like
Right.
they're not, outside of Gesicki, but you're gonna have safeties on him. But I just don't know, man. The speed's too much. Even if Jonathan Jones can take Tyreek Hill on one side, Miles Bryant's taking his lumps this year. I don't want to pick on the guy.
Right.
I think he does do some things well. He's not fast. He's not a speed matchup. We saw it last year on Isaiah McKenzie. Jalen Waddle's at least as fast as Isaiah McKenzie. He's probably faster.
He's got to be faster.
That's a tough matchup. So, all right, you need help over the top there. You still want to give help over the top on Hill. Plus, you're going to have to dedicate a safety to Gesicki. And you may be down a safety in Adrian Phillips. So
McCourty old, and I love Devin McCourty. I wrote about it this week in my game preview on CLNS. Devin McCourty's been, we used it earlier with Jacoby, but consummate pro, guy who's been here forever. He always says the right things. He was a damn good football player. He's still pretty good, but he's getting to be over the hill, and to have to rely on him in the backfield against these guys is not a good thing.
Yeah. And so again, now the numbers really start working against you, and it's tough, right?
It's
and
tough.
Then you also got to worry about their rushing attack, which is very good, and they got a lot of speed there as well. So, man, it's just a tough offense to cover in general. When you're down 3 corners and a safety, or would it be 4 corners? Jack, Jalen,
and
Marcus. You're down 3 corners. A fourth is banged
Jones
up.
Is limited, yeah.
Right, down 3 corners. A fourth is banged up. You're down a safety. That's tough, man. That's tough. You've got to. Here I go again. Broken record. Pass rush. And
right.
The way the Dolphins operate their offense, they can render a pass rush irrelevant, regardless of what the offensive line does. They'll get that ball out quick. They'll hit guys in stride. They'll use pre-snap motion to slow things down. A ton of play action. This is a really tough matchup for the Patriots. And it's not just the Dolphins are really good, but specifically what they're good at really kills the Patriots in this game. So I think somebody said in the chat, a lot of defensive holding this week. Honestly, that's not a terrible strategy.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just go out and hold, but come out, play really physical in the secondary, knock them around, make them think about don't injure anybody, but you play physical. You make them think about going over the middle. You see what you can get away with in terms of holding in PI. You really try to test that balance, and you hope you maybe catch a couple breaks and maybe there's a turnover in there or something. I think, and again, they're small in the secondary, so that doesn't help either. But so I said Miles Bryant does some things well. I know people might be rolling their eyes, but one thing that Miles Bryant does really well, he can hit. He can tackle, he can hit. He's a physical guy. He lets his presence be known. John Jones got that stick a little bit, right? Kyle Duggar's obviously a guy we know who can bring the lumber. So I'd test him physically, and if you lose in a track meet, you lose in a track meet. You're not ceding that much ground anyway in that regard, and hope Teddy gets you 1 or 2.
Well, that's where we come on this show every week and we do the matchup game, right? And we talk about, who do you put this guy over? Where's the help on D? And what's the best way, even if they are I guess lesser of a unit, what's the best way you can match up against these guys to give yourself the best chance to win? There's really nothing here. There's no, not easy solution, but nothing will give me confidence heading into this game. That's kind of why I look at it, and it's it doesn't even matter that Tua is out, because it's going to be so easy for Teddy Bridgewater to hit these guys in space and hit these guys in stride. They're going to make it extra easy for him this week. Tua, I don't know how you feel about him. I was low on him to start the season. He ended up being in that conversation, a top 5 MVP candidate just for the sheer numbers he was putting up on their win streak.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I guess at the end of the second half last week, he was concussed. He threw 3 straight picks on 3 possessions. I don't think there's too much of a drop-off I mean, there is, I suppose, but in this situation, Tua to Teddy, I don't see it being any issue for Miami.
I don't either, honestly.
Okay.
I think that a lot of what their offense is predicated on yards after the catch, right?
Yeah.
And just getting guys the ball in space. So, when people were talking about it, and I think I was on the hub when it officially broke that Tua wasn't going to play, and somebody asked me, does it make a difference? This was my initial reaction was, is Tyreek Hill still playing?
Yeah.
Jalen Waddle still playing? Yeah, it'll be fine. And maybe there's a little bit of a drop off just because Teddy's rusty.
Familiarity in the system. Yeah, right.
Yeah, maybe Teddy's a little rusty. He hasn't played in a few weeks. I do think in terms of the pass rush, it is easier. I don't want to say it's easier to get after a right-handed quarterback. I think it's harder to get after a left-handed quarterback just because everything's reversed and you're maybe not as used to that. So maybe in that sense, it helps the Patriots. And they've all talked about that this week, the righty versus lefty thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's a game-changing difference. By the way, so I did look this up. Brad Allen's crew is doing the game this week, and they are 5th in the league in total flags. They've thrown the 5th most flags in the league. Now, I want to see if I can find it by penalty, and I can. So give me a second here while this loads, because this is going to be interesting. In terms of defensive holdings, nope, I can only sort that per team. I can't sort referees. Oh, wait, maybe I can. Hang on. So,
would you like me to
just stall for a second? Stall for a second. I want to see if I can find it. Yeah.
The only thing I was going to add to the Teddy Bridgewater thing was that as far as familiarity in the system goes and kind of being a plug and play system, right? You look at what Shanahan's done on the West Coast, and it went from Lance to Jimmy to Bert to Purdy, and they're still on the Super Bowl track. And you look at, I mean, I guess it's not fair to do it with Stafford to guys like, was it Bryce Hopkins and John Wolford? Because, I mean, those guys are just not great quarterbacks in the league. But they got Baker Mayfield in that system on 2 days' notice, and he went and won a football game and put up not a decent amount of points, but he took the system and he was able to work in it. They make it easy for the signal callers with the McVay, Shanahan, McDaniel system. So that's kind of, again, why I don't see it being an issue for them to have to start Teddy.
So I don't have the league numbers, but on average, Brad Allen's crew just over 1 defensive holding call per game, and they average defensive pass interference every other game. So maybe it is something you can get away with. Maybe.
Let's see it. I mean, if that's the way they have to do it, that's the way they have to do it, right? That's.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how else they do it.
Physical and test it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the injuries again. I mean, you talked about pass rush and getting after Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
That's the way they're going to have to stop it. I don't know they're going to get the ball out of Teddy's hands like that. But
yeah.
Teron Armstead, 4 injuries on the injury report. I talked about that with you today, but he is listed. He did not practice today with a toe, a pec, a knee, and a hip injury. And then their other Eric Fisher also did not practice with, I believe it's a calf. So like their offensive line is banged up as it is. When you have like the bookends we've talked about in Judon and Uche, if they can get after it a little bit and maybe, like you said, maybe get Teddy to give them one, but it's going to be difficult because, like you said, they manipulate the pass rush with the way they call their quick hitter offense.
Yeah, pretty much.
And Raheem Mostert, it's funny just talking about this offense. McDaniel poaches Mostert from San Francisco this offseason, and then they go and get Jeff Wilson Jr. as well. So he has the same 2 running backs he had when he was calling the run game with Shanahan out west, and they're just killing it now too. Mostert went for like 135 yards, I think, against Buffalo 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
He's kind of turned into their I use the term bell cow too loosely, but he's getting the majority of their carries now.
He's their lead back. Yeah.
Yeah. He's fast too. Both of them have speed, and this offense is just about pure speed, and it's going to be tough.
Well, so it is going to be raining, which makes that tough. And I guess we didn't talk about this. If the Patriots can take away the run early, that helps. Because if you know Miami's throwing, if you make Miami's going to want to run the ball. If you can make them go away from that, that helps a little bit. And for those speedsters on wet turf, it can be tricky. So that's maybe something that now we're really kind of grasping at straws here. But if we're looking for advantages for the Patriots, I'd call that one.
I mean, we're looking up the referees. We're looking at the weather report and thinking about slick turf instead of the key matchups that we do every single week on this show. And it's because it's just, I don't think it's going to happen for them. They're going to have to, if they want to win this game, they're going to have to outscore this Miami team, and I don't really see that happening.
Right.
Do you have anything else to add on the defense?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Well, then, I guess that can sort of, well, before we get into, predictions and putting a wrap on this game, let's talk about our friends over at Rocket Money, Alex. I'm sure that I heard you talking about it today when we were down at Gillette, just how you were talking about trying to sign into a TNT subscription. I don't know if you even knew that you had it.
I do have it. Their app just doesn't work.
Okay, so, but there's, especially when you're in the streaming days, it's hard to keep track of, all the things, whether you borrow them, whether you pay for them, you never know. But now you can with Rocket Money. You don't know how much your subscriptions really cost. Most Americans think they spend around $80 a month on subscriptions. They actually cost closer to $200. It could be, like I said, TNT, Amazon Prime, Hulu, ESPN Plus. You got Paramount. They're all over the place. It's crazy, and it's hard to keep track. They could be draining your bank account. You could be wasting $100 a month. You don't even know it. But I don't do that anymore, Alex. And that's because I use this app that I love. It's called Rocket Money. It used to be known as Truebill. The app shows you all your subscriptions in one place and then cancels whatever you want to cancel just by clicking the big fat cancel button right in the middle. Rocket Money can even find your subscriptions that you didn't know you were paying for. You may even find out you were double charged for a subscription without knowing it. To cancel, like I said, all you have to do is press cancel, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Get rid of those useless subscriptions with Rocket Money now. Go to rocketmoney.com/PatsBeat. Seriously, you could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/PatsBeat. Cancel your unnecessary subscriptions right now at rocketmoney.com/PatsBeat. All right, so is there an answer to winning this game? I'll go first. My take is honestly no. I know they've played two hard-fought games. They've lost them both by one score each, and it seems like they're right there. If they won each of them, they basically would have had it just about locked up right now, I think. But at the end of the day, the Pats' lack of defensive backs this week is just going to bite them. Miami wins. I think it'll be lower scoring. But again, I think the Patriots are 3-point favorites. I think it should be the opposite right now. Miami's lost 4 straight, but I don't think the Patriots have it. Not that they're checked out, because that's the one thing I noticed during the Cincinnati game is they fought. And that's something you can hang your hat on. But the lack of DBs is just going to be too much. And I think Miami's fast offense is just kind of be able to outscore the Patriots.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that if they had all their corners, maybe they have a shot. But it's going to turn into a track meet. Miami's going to win that every time.
All right. Well, there you have it on the Patriots, Alex. But one thing we do want to do before we get out of here is talk about, if the background will go, college football. Let's get into it. College football playoff. The semifinal is this Saturday, New Year's Eve. First game is at 4 p.m. TCU is playing against Michigan. Michigan's a 7.5-point favorite. We got Max Duggan at quarterback, Heisman runner-up versus J.J. McCarthy from Michigan, and Jim Harbaugh in his khakis. What do you think of this one? I think Michigan rolls. You think something else, I know, because we talked about it today. Why?
Yeah, so I think Michigan's going to ultimately, I think Michigan wins this game, but TCU's got a shot because Michigan really only wins games one way, and they're really good at their one way of winning games. I mean, they run the football incredibly well. But, man, you got to put this thing in J.J. McCarthy's hands against one of the better secondaries in college football. Trey Hodges Tomlinson won the award as the best corner in college football this year. Mm-hmm. Max Duggan's a gamer, man. Max Duggan, to use your word, winner, right?
He's a winner, baby.
Games. I don't think, I think Georgia, as crazy as it sounds, I think Georgia has more margin of error against Ohio State than Michigan does against TCU. They're fighters. They don't go away. If you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile, talking about TCU. And
look at the Kansas State game.
Right. Michigan has to pull ahead early. I trust Georgia against Ohio State could be close at the half and win that game late, relatively easily. If Michigan's close at the half, they're gonna feel the pressure.
Yeah.
And I think TCU is gonna thrive on that. Right. So Yeah, I'm not sleeping on TCU. I'm picking Michigan to
Okay.
win, but I would be more surprised by Ohio State beating Georgia than it would by TCU beating Michigan.
Interesting. Okay. So 7.5 point spread, you think TCU covers?
Yeah,
Okay.
because
We'll
of the
go with that.
half. If it was
Yeah,
7, I
sure.
don't know. But seven
Okay.
and a half, yeah, I think they're within a
So they
touchdown.
keep it a one possession game. All right,
Yeah.
interesting. I disagree on that. I think Michigan, the way they played Ohio State, I think it's just a different beast, the Big Ten compared to the Big 12. And look, I love Max Duggan. I think he probably should have won the Heisman the way his season ended versus Caleb Williams. I know that's obviously recency bias, but I like him. He's a gamer, but at the end of the day, I just think Michigan will smell blood. They got to this point last year, and they failed to get through the semifinal. I think they want to get back there this year. Jim Harbaugh gets back to the natty.
So, two things to that. One,
Okay.
can Michigan duplicate that success? Because, yes, they played well against Ohio State. I thought that was their best shot. I think that is as good as this team can play.
Sure.
Now, can they match that level? Maybe. I don't think they can surpass it. I think that's as good as – and look, there's no shame in that. They played an incredible football game, right? But
against one of the best teams in the country. I think they're better than TCU.
Ohio State?
Yeah.
They probably have more talent at the top of the roster. I don't know that they're top to bottom better.
I guess.
I just, can Michigan do that again? Can Harbaugh pitch a second perfect game? Right? They didn't look great in the Big Ten champion. Like, if they play how they played against Purdue, TCU is a much better team than Purdue is, right? If they play the way they played against Purdue, TCU is really going to have a shot at this thing. So it's just they've been inconsistent always under Harbaugh. Always. And they seem to be good for one letdown a year. And they're due. That's basically my thing. Michigan is still Michigan. Right. They generally get very close until they don't. And I think they're due. I think they're due for a slip up, and TCU's the cut. Now, there's some teams they could slip up against and be fine. Like Purdue's probably in that category. That game wasn't a total slip up, but it was not their best game. TCU, if they slip up just enough, can take advantage. So that's kind of where I'm at, right? Where like it's totally fair to bring up Michigan, Ohio State. They played a great game, but they have played one game more recently where they did not look as good.
Sure.
And maybe they knew they were in, and maybe they were, looking ahead and whatever. But
right.
Are they going to look ahead past TCU? We're either getting the defending national champs or another shot at Ohio State. It's a lot to look ahead to.
You can't, though. You have to, I get it, but I think Harbaugh's a better coach than to look ahead.
I don't. I don't.
Interesting.
And
we talked about it today. He's had one hell of a calendar year.
He's had one hell of a calendar. Again, he just feels like I'm picking Michigan to win.
Right. Yeah.
But I feel a lot better about picking Georgia to beat Ohio State than I do about picking Michigan to beat TCU.
Well, let's move on to the second game then, because I disagree a tad. Let's do it. Georgia versus Ohio State.
So hang on. Let me ask you this: as a gambling guy.
Yeah.
So you can bet the spread on one game. You can bet the spread on the other. Can you bet which game will have a larger margin of victory?
I'm sure that there is some sort of problem.
I'd be interested to see where the money's coming in on that. I really would.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't think it's not like an every weekend bet type thing, so I don't think there's going to be
it's like a prop bet
necessarily. Yeah, it's like a prop bet. Yeah. But yeah, Georgia now versus Ohio State, 8 p.m. on New Year's Eve. Georgia's a 6.5 point favorite, so less than a touchdown. Stetson Bennett versus C.J. Stroud, 2 Heisman finalists. I think, hey, don't look at me. Look at the voters. Stetson Bennett. Sorry, not Stetson Bennett, but I think this game is closer than the spread indicates. I think this could be a 3-point game. I think C.J. Stroud is out there to prove something this weekend. I think that there's been a lot of, questioning of his ability to win the big game and, be a high draft pick and lead a team. I read a story on ESPN today about a lot of the negativity he gets, and I just think that they're going to go out and try and score. And is Jackson Smith and Jigma's not playing, correct?
He's not. If he was playing, I might feel differently.
Yeah, but they still have Marvin Harrison Jr., who you love, I know. He's the best wide receiver in college football. I think that they keep this game close. I think as good as Georgia's defense is, I think Georgia's offense also as good as Stetson Bennett's been this year. I think they can be exposed a little bit, and if it turns into a shootout, I think I trust CJ Stroud in their offense over Stetson Bennett in Georgia's. So, again, I think Georgia probably wins, but I think it's going to be a close game.
I just maybe I'm simplifying it too much. The Big Ten
Okay.
never beats the SEC. It never happens. And I'm trying to find this one stat here because I'm curious. Like they haven't seen anything like Brock Bowers. They haven't seen anybody like Darnell Washington. They haven't seen anybody, like some of these skill position players around Stetson Bennett. And that's just on the offensive side of the ball, right? That's before we get to the defense and the first round picks on first round picks on first round picks. It is going to be really interesting to see Kelee Ringo against Marvin Harrison Jr. Those are two top 10 picks, and
right.
Junior won't be till next year, right?
Yep.
Or 2 years, whatever it is. But
yeah, he's young.
Kelee Ringo is a lot better than any corner Marvin Harrison has faced this year, right? That's a real SEC. It's an NFL corner in Kelee Ringo. So I haven't been totally sold on CJ Stroud this year. I think he's underperformed expectations. They've missed Travion Henderson. He's kind of inconsistently been in the lineup. We'll see how much he can give them. I think they're at their best when he's running the ball, a lot. As good as Marvin Harrison is, I think using the run to set up the pass is something Ohio State's very good with. So I just, it comes down to Georgia just being that good. I think Georgia wins the whole thing. I think Georgia is the best team in college football.
Yeah.
I don't think teams 2, 3, or 4 are even in the playoff. So, ultimately, and I'm not saying the committee got it wrong. You got to go by the schedule.
Yeah, right.
But if we're just going by who, if we had the NCAA video game, who would have the highest rating? Georgia would be number 1.
Georgia, but
and the next closest playoff team, probably Michigan at 5 or 6. I just think the gap's that big. So, and by the way, because people are wondering, in no particular order, assuming full health, Alabama, Tennessee, USC would be those if it was just the 4 best team. Now, Tennessee doesn't have Hendon Hooker. Obviously, that changes things. But
you're talking if they did have Hooker, right?
If they did have Hendon Hooker, right? And look, Georgia's played them, and Georgia beat them pretty handily.
Right?
Is Ohio State better than Tennessee? I don't think so. They're maybe they're even at best. But I love that Tennessee team, man. That team can play. I wish we got to see them in the playoffs. So
yeah,
I just think Georgia's just so far ahead of these other 3 teams that they're just going to roll again. They're going to go back to back. Kills me to say that, but I think it's inevitable.
I think so too. I think it's going to be Georgia, Michigan, and
it's just do they beat Do they beat Michigan by 17, or do they beat TCU by 30 in the championship? That to me is what it comes down to.
I just don't see TCU getting by Michigan, but we'll see what happens. That'll be Saturday. We'll be back next week to talk about how those games went and also to preview the final. But lastly, on this lovely Thursday night Patriots beat, let's quickly touch on Thursday Night Football because we have the Cowboys at the Titans. Your favorite thing, Alex, is sicko football, and I think this is truly some sicko football. The way the Titans are just throwing Josh Dobbs into the fire. Derrick Henry's not playing because this game doesn't matter for Tennessee. It's a big game as far as momentum goes, but no matter what happens to them or the Jaguars this week, Tennessee versus Jacksonville next weekend, Week 18, is the AFC South Championship game.
Yep.
So this game doesn't matter. So they're resting guys. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that should be flexed to the Sunday night game for Week 18.
Yeah,
unless, and I don't know all the permutations of this, but if it does work out, we get an NFC South championship. Because that game, for a 7-win team to get in the playoff, the entire country, that should be mandated.
Yes, it should. Everyone has to.
Everybody should have to watch that. If you claim to love football, really love the game itself, not just fantasy football, the actual sport itself. Right. NFC South Championship. You scratching and clawing for that next week. Anyway, somebody tweeted this earlier. It was very interesting. You have what are they? 11-4, 11-5, 11-4, right? The Cowboys.
Yeah.
You have an 11-4 team that needs this for their playoff chances.
Yep.
Against a 7-8 team.
Yeah.
7-8 team that win or lose still has a shot at the playoffs, which is. Yeah, there's a ton of chaos in this game. I will say, you talk about Josh Dobbs, and I'm bummed. It would have been cool to see Malik Willis in this spot. That probably would have been fun.
Yeah.
He's a fun prospect.
I haven't really watched him much this year, right?
I haven't gotten to see a ton of him just because they're always playing up against the Patriots, but he's a guy I'll be interested to see down the road. But the running back, the guy stepping in for Derrick Henry, probably the most popular player in fantasy football right now, Hassan Haskins, Michigan.
Yes.
I was a big Hassan Haskins guy in the draft last year. I'm a big fan of his. I love the way he runs the football. When he got drafted by Tennessee, I was ecstatic because, look, he's not Derrick Henry. Nobody's Derrick Henry, but he takes that same mentality to run in the football. You've got to earn bringing that guy to the ground. He runs angry. He runs pissed off, all of it. So Hassan Haskins with a national spotlight to kind of prove, because he hasn't done much this year. Why would he? He's on Derrick Henry.
Right.
With a chance to put himself on the scene? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Right. So I don't know if I'm going to make a pick in this game because it's nonsense. I don't know if you have Hassan Haskins over or under rushing yards. Okay. I don't really care what it is. I'll take the over. I'm all in on Hassan Haskins tonight.
That's my guy. As I stall and look for that number, what I will do is...
you know what? I'll say this. The Cowboys are going to win. The Cowboys are going to win.
Well, the spread is Cowboys. The spread is Cowboys minus 14. Jeez. Cowboys have to cover 14 points, and I think they probably
might do
will.
That. Yeah, they'll probably do that.
So you don't want to take Tennessee plus 14, do you?
No, I think Tennessee is just trying to get it and get out.
Yeah,
like that's the get in healthy, go out healthy, like as healthy as they. I mean, they're not healthy right now, but like, they're survive in advance for them. Because they can't even get to the 3 seed in the AFC. I mean, they're either the 4th seed or they're out. Actually, I think there is one random, like, really fluky way they can get the wild card, but you're not playing for that at this point.
So my offshore sports book does not even have odds for Hassan Haskins rushing yards. So I don't know if we can get I don't know what we're allowed to say on YouTube, but if I can get another number somewhere somehow.
Yeah, we got to be careful about this.
Yes.
Let's see here. Mike, that took
me... gamblers in the chat?
Mike, that took me 2 seconds.
Okay, well, what do you got?
49.5.
49.5, take the over.
Over. Hammer that over. Love that.
All right. Well, Barth's pick is Hassan Haskins over 49.5 rushing yards. My pick is Cowboys minus 14. Love Josh Dobbs. Love what he did at Tennessee a few years back, but
although I just realized I doomed Hassan Haskins given how my
yes.
If you're fading me, if you've been fading me all year on these picks, congratulations on your speedboat. I think at this point, like, it's impressive to be wrong this much. At this point, I think I should be proud of it. I mean, I keep constantly just picking underdogs, but
yeah, no, hey, I like it. Congratulations on your speedboat. All right, that'll do it for us. Again, Patriots take on the Dolphins this weekend. 1 p.m. kickoff on New Year's Day. Me and Barth will be there. And then we'll be back next week to break that thing all down and preview what could potentially be the Patriots continuing to control their own destiny in Buffalo. We'll see what happens. They got to get through Miami first. We'll be there for all of it. Follow us on Twitter for coverage during the game and after. Follow Alex at Real Alex Barth. You can follow myself at Mike Kadlick. Read his stuff on 98.5 The Sports Hub. Read mine on CLNSmedia.com. Keep it with us, and until next week, we will see you all. Have a good weekend. Happy New Year.